Hi, welcome to the Joyful House and welcome to Craft Table Talks. My name is Cynthia with Cynthia's Joyful Creations, and I'm glad you're here. Week after week, we are going to learn and explore new things in the craft of crocheting and knitting. I encourage you to ask questions or suggest topics that you would like to discuss or research further. Our time here around the craft table, it is for everyone, beginners and seasoned crafters. I am dedicating this time around the craft table to my sister Missy, who let me know that she was interested in learning how to crochet and knit. So I thank her for inspiring me to share what I can and bring some yarny inspiration and joy to you and all those who want to learn and refresh. So if you're ready, come join me for today's Craft Table Talks. Welcome to the Joyful House and welcome to Craft Table Talks number 7. My name is Cynthia with Cynthia's Joyful Creations and I will be your host today. If this is your first time joining us, well then welcome in, and please be sure to check out all the other Craft Table Talks that we have already had. They are located in a playlist on the channel under Craft Table Talks. If this is not your first time joining us, well then welcome back. I look forward to sharing some joy around the craft table with you today as we learn how to make the half double crochet stitch. Before we get started today, I would like to invite you to join me as we look at the topic outline of all the things that we will be doing around the craft table today. So as you can see on the topic outline, our table topic today is how do I make a half double crochet stitch? Then we're going to look at the abbreviation for a half double crochet, the introduction to what a half double crochet stitch is and what makes it significant. Then we'll have our table magic, where we'll gather around the craft table and actually learn how to make the half double crochet, practice it, and then we're going to look at also during that time the anatomy of the stitch, which is kind of a review because we did go over that in episode 6 when we talked about the single crochet stitch. Then we'll look at the turning chain, which is a review. We did go over that a little bit in episode 5 where we learned how to do the slip stitch, and episode 6 where we learned how to do a single crochet stitch. And then we will end with our table chatter. Just a quick reminder, our table chatter is an interactive way for you to get active in this video and chat back and forth with me. And so it will be self-explanatory on whether or not it is asking you a question to answer, a joke to try and figure out the punchline, or a word to share in a sentence. Well, if you're ready, let's go ahead and jump into our topic of half double crochet. The abbreviation for half double crochet is HDC, and you can see that on your screen, and it just literally stands for half double crochet. It is the first letter of each word, HDC, and that is how it is identified in the United States. In the United Kingdom, it is half TR, and it stands for half treble crochet. So you've got HDC for the United States and HTR for the United Kingdom. Now, as we discussed in Craft Table Talks number 6, when we introduced the single crochet, the terminology for the United States and the United Kingdom are different, but the stitch is executed in the same way. It just has a different title. Now let's talk about the introduction of the half double crochet. The half double crochet is a significant next step once you are comfortable with the single crochet. the half double crochet is a medium height stitch. It's taller than the single crochet, but it is a little bit shorter than the double crochet. Now we'll talk about double crochets the next time we are together. This stitch does produce a durable, firm fabric, just like the single crochet, but it is not quite as dense as a single crochet, and it gives you a slightly softer texture. So here we have our half double crochet. It sits perfectly between the single crochet and the double crochet in height, and it creates a fabric that is slightly taller and softer than the single crochet without it being too loose. Now this stitch is often used in garments, blankets, accessories, all kinds of different things. And what it does is the half double crochet stitch helps you begin to understand how yarn overs on your hook can affect the height of a project and the fabric drape. And you'll understand more what I'm talking about if you've never seen how a half double crochet stitch has been made in just a moment when we gather around the craft table. Now, because this stitch does add a yarn over at the beginning of the stitch, it introduces an important concept that you're going to see in many other stitches as we advance and bring different kinds of stitch combinations to our craft table talks time together around the craft table. But for now, let's just talk about the half double crochet stitch and how is it different from the single crochet. The main difference between single crochet and half double crochet is not only the height, but bringing in that yarn over. And I know we've said that word a couple times already, and if you've never seen it, you're trying really hard to imagine what is a yarn over. I promise you, I'm about to show you as we create some magic around the craft table. All right, so with the half double crochet, as we've mentioned, it brings in what is called a yarn over. And this helps to increase the height of the stitch and also helps create that looser, more flexible flow within the stitch itself. So if you are ready to take a look at how to make this half double crochet, then grab your hook, grab your yarn, and let's head over to the craft table and create some table magic. Welcome to the craft table where the magic happens. As you already know from our table topic, we're going to be learning how to make the half double crochet today. Before you can see that I already have a foundation chain. I have a foundation chain of 11 chains. And if you are not familiar with how to make a chain, then you can go to the playlist and look at episode 4, and it explains how to make a foundation chain. So as I shared, we have a foundation chain of 11, and in episode number 5, when we created the slip stitch, I shared a chart with you, and I'm going to put it up on the screen for you right now, that will remind you how many chains are needed per stitch to make to use for a turning chain. And as you can see from the chart on your screen, a half double crochet needs 2 chains to complete its turning chain. So before we get started with that, let me remind you how to count our chains. Remember that the chain on the hook or the loop on the hook does not count. It doesn't count as a loop, it doesn't count as a chain, and it never counts as a stitch. So then if we count from the loop that is on the hook, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9, 10, and 11. So we have 11 chains. Now, before we get started, let me also remind you and do a quick review of the anatomy of our chains. You have 3 loops for your chains. You have the front loop that is closest to you. You have the back loop that is farthest away from you. And then on the back side is your third loop, and it is also referred to as the back bump. Okay? Just a reminder that when you work through most of your stitches, unless otherwise specified, you always go under the 2 loops, the front and the back loop. And as you can see, it makes this perfect little V. All right, so let's go ahead and start with our half double crochet. And so we've got to have a turning chain of 2 chains. So that means we're going to actually create our half double crochet for the first time in the 3rd chain from the hook, because we need chain 1 and chain 2 to be our turning chain. Now with the single crochet, we would insert our hook under those 2 loops, and there they are. But with the half double crochet, before we even get started and insert our hook into the chain, there's one extra step that we have to do, and this is what helps create the height of our half double crochet. And we have to do what is called a yarn over, and it is exactly what it says. We're going to wrap the yarn over the hook, around the hook. The correct way to always do that is from the back of the hook to the front. So when we wrap that yarn around the hook and do a yarn over, this is what it looks like. And you can see that it now gives us 2 loops on the hook. We have 1 and 2. Now you're ready to do the second step of the half double crochet, and that is to insert the hook into the appropriate chain. So again, we're going to skip 1, 2, and we're going to work right into this 3rd chain. So let's come and put our hook right below those top 2 loops. And now we're going to do what's called a yarn over again. So let's yarn over, and just like you did with the single crochet, you're going to turn your hook counterclockwise so you can grab that yarn over loop, and you're going to pull it through the chain. And when you do that, you're going to have 3 loops on your hook. A single crochet had only 2 loops because you didn't yarn over before inserting and pulling up another loop. So with the half double, we have 3 loops. We've got 1, we've got 2, and 3. Now, with the half double crochet, it involves 3 yarn overs and 3 loops on your hook. So 3 and 3. So that means we need to yarn over for a 3rd time. So since I don't have anything to hold on to, I'm going to hold those stitches, or those loops, excuse me, on the hook, and I'm going to yarn over again and do the same thing. Turn my hook counterclockwise so I can grab that loop I just created in the yarn over, and I'm going to pull it through all 3 loops on the hook. And I have completed my first half double crochet. My chain 2 at the beginning, which was those 2 chains that we skipped, that counts as 1, and the one we just made actually counts as 2. Let's do that again. Let's make another half double crochet. So we're going to yarn over from back to front. We're going to go to the next chain, and we're going to insert our hook. All right. We're going to yarn over, pull that loop through the chain, and we now have 3 loops on the hook. We're going to yarn over again and pull through all 3 loops. And we have created another half double crochet. Let's do it again. Yarn over, insert your hook into the next chain, yarn over again, pull that loop through, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. Let's do it again. Yarn over, insert your hook into the next chain, yarn over again, pull that loop through, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3. You're doing great. Let's do it again. Yarn over, insert your hook into the next chain, yarn over, pull that loop up, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3. Let's do it again. Yarn over, insert your hook into the next chain under both those loops, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3. And this is what your half double crochets look like. This is my favorite of the basic stitches. I love the half double crochet. Let's do it again. Yarn over, insert your hook into the next chain, yarn over again, pull up a loop, now 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3. I just want to remind you that how you hold the hook, how you hold the yarn, there is no right or wrong way. You have to simply do what is comfortable for you. This may take some more practice, and that's what I encourage you to do. All right, so we're going to do a couple more, and that will get us to the end of our foundation chain here. And as you can see, we've got 1 and 2 left, because once again, our slip knot on the very, very end does not count. So let's make these last 2 half double crochets together. Yarn over, insert your hook into the next chain, yarn over, pull up that loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3. Remember, when you're doing your first row on any project, it's going to seem kind of wonky and it's going to seem like your project is going every which way. That is okay, as long as you are relaxed and creating your stitches with the same tension. And part of that is just simply because you don't have anything really to hold on to. But you can see with these half double crochets, it gives it quite a bit of height and depth. So it gives you a little bit more than the slip stitch and the single crochet to hold on to. We have 1 more chain left. So let's make that last half double crochet by yarning over, inserting into that last chain, and it might be a little tricky. So just work it in there and then pull that loop through. And see how even my work is sideways right now? As I get more and I have something to hold on to, I will be able to keep that parallel, horizontal versus vertical. Now let's finish our half double crochet. We've got our 3 loops on the hook, so we just need to yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops. And we have our last half double crochet made. All right, and if you'll remember from the last time we were together, and I probably should have gotten a different stitch marker than a yellow one. It's always good to put a stitch marker in the last stitch that you made, especially while you're practicing and making sure that you end in the same or in the correct stitches that you need to be. All right, now let's talk about our turning chain one more time. So for our turning chain for a half double crochet, we need to have 2 chains before starting the next row. And again, this chain will help us be able to create the height that the stitch needs. I got a different stitch marker. So that you'll be able to see this a little bit better. So let's move that over there and let's put this stitch marker in. All right, so we need to chain 2 for our turning chain. So we're going to wrap the yarn over the hook, what they call a yarn over, and we're just going to pull that through the loop that was on the hook. We need to do it another time because we need to do 2. So yarn over and pull that yarn over loop through the loop that's on the hook. We now have a chain of 2, and you can see this. Here's the first one, here's the second one. This is our first stitch, and you can see that because our stitch marker is in it. So again, here's chain 1 and chain 2, because remember the chain or the loop on the hook never counts. So loop 1, loop 2, chain 1, chain 2. That is our turning chain of 2. This will be our first stitch that we'll work in. Okay? All right. After you've chained 2, then you need to turn your work. Always turn your work towards you. This way, it keeps everything from getting twisted. You do not want it to get twisted because then your project will become all cattywonka, as I like to call it. All right. Now, when you've chained 2, and we talked about this in episode number 6 with the single crochet, when you've chained 2, this acts as the stitch for this stitch, because now that we've created a first row, this is no longer a chain, it is a stitch. It is the half double crochet stitch. So this chain 2, this turning chain of 2, acts as the stitch for this half double crochet. And the way we referred to it in episode 6, I got a lot of positive feedback that everyone understood it better when I called this a home and we were creating families in it. So we're going to go with that analogy again. So this turning chain is the family that lives in this house. So we do not need to put another family in this house. So we need to go to the next house in the neighborhood, and I'm just going to push my stitch marker out of the way, which will be this one here. And this is our second half double crochet from the previous row. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into that stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through the 3 loops that are on the hook, and that is the second half double crochet for this row. Now, I'm going to take this stitch marker out for just a second, because if you'll remember from episode number 6, I showed you that when we do a turning chain like this, because it's on the bar, or what they call the post of the previous stitch, it's not actually in the center of the stitch right here, like we created this stitch in the center. So you can see it creates this enormous gap. I don't like that in my work. So when it comes to the turning chain, this is an area where personal preference comes into play. So I want to show you what I do, and in episode 6, I also showed you a picture of what that looks like when you have the turning chain and it creates the big gap. In fact, I'm going to put it up on the screen for you right now so you can see it again. And then, so you can see that on the left-hand side there. And let me just Yes, you can see on the left-hand side there that there's a big gap, and that's where the turning chain is sitting just like this one on the bar or post of the previous stitch rather than in the center of the stitch right here. But on the right side, when the turning chain acts as the turning chain and then you create a stitch in the center of that first stitch, as you can see on the right side of that picture there, it does not create those gaps. So let me take this out, frogging as we call it, and I'm going to show you my preference. Again, there's no right or wrong way. You do what makes you comfortable. So if I have my work and I have just now completed my first row, I'm going to chain one, and I do this every single time regardless of the stitch and regardless of the height of the stitch. I just use that chain one turning chain just to allow me to turn my work. And then I work my first stitch, whatever I'm doing, and today we're doing the half double crochet, right into that half double crochet, which was the last one I made from the previous row. So I've chained one and turn. Now I'm going to create my half double crochet by yarning over, and I'm going to go right into that first stitch. I'm going to yarn over and pull up my loop, so I have my 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3. Let's go ahead and make the second one so you can see how it does not have that great big gap. So let's yarn over again, insert into the next stitch, and you can see that it's easier to go into those stitches. You can really see even more so with this half double crochet than with the single crochet, how it just creates that opening. It's so inviting. So once you've inserted your hook, yarn over, pull up that loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3. Now look at this. You see how we do not have that great big old gap? So it is not there. So that's how I like to do my turning chains. I always just chain one to create the turning chain, and then I work the stitch right into the top of that stitch. All right, let's practice down this second row. But the last thing I want to share is both methods are completely acceptable unless a pattern specifically tells you otherwise. But as you crochet more, you're going to start to notice which methods you prefer over the other and which one gives you the best look, especially with your tension as well. All right, so let's go ahead and work down this second row with our half double crochets. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3. And let's do it again. Yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. And the more you work and the more you have to hold on to, the easier it becomes, but that's why it's just important to practice. So yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3. Now remember on the first row where my project a lot of times ended up going vertical because I didn't have much to hold on to? Notice when I make the stitches now, because I have a little bit more to hold on to, my project is staying horizontal like it should. Yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. Yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. We've got 2 more to do, 1 and 2. I don't have my stitch marker in there, but I'm going to put them in there for you. In fact, let's mark the first one of this row. I do apologize I didn't do that after we created that. And we'll mark the second one for the third row. All right, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3. And let's do the last one. These are always the trickiest because it's hard to see where they are, and it's oftentimes easy to skip or add a stitch because you can see it's real easy. You could simply mistake this and add one here and add one here, because this is our turning chain. This is the 2 chains that we skipped at the beginning when we worked into the third one. So that's our turning chain. So it looks like we've got 2 left, but we really only have 1. And I shared in episode number 6 with the single crochet that to help create a straight edge, instead of yarning over and going into the top of this stitch, I'm actually going to skip it and work into the turning chain. I've got to work in one of them, but not both of them. So you can choose your preference. Again, this is where personal preference comes in. And for me, I find that my edges are straighter when I don't work in the top of that stitch, but I work in the turning chain. So I'm going to insert into the turning chain, but just like if I were working in the center of that stitch, I need to make sure I have 2 loops. So what I have is my turning chain and the side bar that was created from the previous row. Then I yarn over, pull up that loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3, and I am done. I'm going to put my stitch marker in. And so this is it. And see how that creates that nice sharp edge right there? That's why I like working in that turning chain. All right, again, this is personal preference. You can either chain 1 or you can chain 2. Again, I'm going to chain 1, turn my work towards me, and now I'm ready to start row 3. I'm going to remove this stitch marker, yarn over because I'm going to do the half double crochet, and again I'm going to let that 1 chain of my turning chain just count as a turning chain instead of a stitch. If I had chained 2 and then I skip this and go to the next one, that means I'm letting that turning chain count as a stitch. But since I'm not, I'm going to let it count as just a turning chain. I'm going to work right into that stitch. First, remember, I've got to yarn over, insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. And that is my first half double crochet on row 3. Before I go any further, I'm going to put my stitch marker in. All right, then I'm going to work into the next one. Yarn over, insert into that stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. We're going to do it again. Yarn over, insert hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. And you can see how easy it is to see where I've got to go in for each of those stitches. All right, let's work our half double crochets across this row. And again, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. Yarn over, insert into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. All right, we're at our last stitch here. So I'm going to take my stitch marker out and I'm going to yarn over. And again, for me, I'm going to skip the next stitch and I'm going to work into that turning chain. And if you decide that you want to use the turning chain as a turning chain and not as a stitch, I honestly recommend that when you put in your stitch markers, instead of putting it in the stitch, you put it in the turning chain. And I'll work one more row with you to show you what I'm talking about. And that will help you also from not taking that stitch marker out and then maybe getting a phone call and coming back and saying, oh, I've got 2 more stitches when you only have 1. So let me show you. So again, I'm going to skip this stitch and work into that turning chain. Again, that's a preference. You can work into the stitch. There is no right or wrong way. Yarn over, pull up that loop. And it's caught on a little thread, a little piece of thread. You see that? They call that a little bit of a strand. 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3. And row 3 is done. All right. Now, to use the stitch marker in the turning chains, I need to go ahead and create my turning chain. So let me chain 1. All right. Turn my work. And then I am going to put my stitch marker right inside this turning chain, because that's actually where I will make my stitch. Okay. All right. Let's yarn over and go ahead and insert our hook into that first stitch. Yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3. All right. And let's just keep making half double crochets all the way down this row. Yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. You are doing great. Just keep working and practicing those half double crochets all the way down row 4. Yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3. The more you do this, the easier it will become to controlling the hook, controlling the yarn, controlling your tension, and just creating that stitch from what we call muscle memory. All right, so I'm at the end here, and because I was putting my stitch marker into the stitch and not the turning chain, I'm going to go ahead and pull this out. But as a reminder, my personal preference is instead of working in the top of the stitch, I'm going to go into the turning chain. I'm going to yarn over, go into that turning chain. You can see I have still 2 loops on the hook, even though I'm going into that turning chain. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3. That completes row number 4. All right. And then I'll chain 1. And that chain 1 is where I'm going to put my stitch marker, because that's where I'll be putting my stitch. Okay. I've already chained 1 for my turning chain, so I'm going to turn. My stitch marker is going through my turning chain. There we go. All right. So I'm going to yarn over and go into that stitch and create my half double crochets. And I'm going to do this row rather quickly so I can show you at the end where the stitch marker is in the turning chain versus the stitch. So you keep practicing. And I'm just going to work down this row until I get to that last stitch. All right, and we are at the last stitch. And so look at this. So I showed you that when I put my stitch marker into that turning chain, and I just pulled it out. So let me put it back in. Okay. So I'm at my last stitch, but I can see that this is where I'm going to make it instead of in the stitch. So I can either leave my stitch marker in and work around it, just insert right there where the stitch marker is, or I can pull that stitch marker out. But then I complete my stitch, and I can see how nice and even it's lined up. And then I can now pull my stitch marker out if I want, and chain one to create my turning chain. And then once again, before I do anything, go ahead and put my stitch marker right into that turning chain. So it is set up for the next time I come back to it. Then turn my work and continue. And I just kind of push that stitch marker out the way. And I just continue working across the row. All right. I am going to pull this last row out because in the last couple episodes, I showed you the difference of what the slip stitches look like compared to the single crochet. And I want to do the same thing with the double crochet, but I want to have the same amount of rows for each one. All right. And then I've already showed you how to fasten off. There are a couple ways on how to do that, and you can always go back and look at that, how we do that. We actually did look at how to fasten off in episode number 5. So in episode number 5, I showed you how to fasten off. But for this and for purposes, I am just going to, so if I finish my last stitch, I just yarn over, chain 1, and then I cut my yarn. And pull it through. And if that is not your preference and that's not easy for you, you can go back and look at episode number 6 where we talked about fastening off and look at the other option that you have. All right, so this is our half double crochet. Let's look at this in comparison to, this is the slip stitches, and you can see a big difference there. Same amount of rows, but this project is much bigger. So you can see the bigger the stitches, the faster your project will work up. This is the single crochet. So again, this is the slip stitches. I got all my tails here. This is the slip stitches, and this is the single crochet. And when we put those side by side, you can see there's a little bit of a gap. It looks like this one's missing a row, but they both have the same amount of rows, but the bigger the stitch, the higher the height of not only the stitch, but your project. And then we bring in our half double crochets, and even looking at that up against the single crochet, again, it looks like we're missing a row, but we are not. So you can see the differences. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed learning how to make the half double crochet and you feel successful in doing it. Well, I hope you enjoyed our time around the craft table today, and I hope that you can now confidently make the half double crochet stitch. The half double crochet stitch is kind of like a quiet hero. And that's exactly what makes it inspirational. It sits right in the middle. It's not as quick and simple as a single crochet. It's not as tall and dramatic as the double crochet, but it is balance, which brings stability and reliability. I hope you'll stay for our table chatter, where you'll see some inspirational quotes about the half double crochet and the question that I have for you to engage with by leaving a comment in the comment section below. Well, until next time, be joyful, stay crafty in your own way, make your own joyful creation, and be the joy in everything you do. And I'll see you next time.